different. I see we have we're calling an audible. Oh, we're going 4 wide. It's happening. It's happening.
Hello, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome in to the 4 Wide Podcast. I'm Harrison Reno. Alongside me, co-hosts Jeremiah Stoddard, Dan Kiley, Jonathan Williams. Guys, it is our 4 Wide Podcast debut here on the Film Guide Network. And with that, we have a lot to get to. It is week 2 of the NFL, and we just finished up week 3 of college football. So with that being said, we're going to open up with some college football talk, kind of get the juices flowing before we get into the big stuff talking about the NFL today. Stoddard, open us up.
Well, as you said, we got to get into some college football talk. It was a good week for Georgia fans out there, dominating South Carolina, which kind of leads into the topic for this part, which is it's Georgia, and then everybody else has been kind of behind that. Bama had a little bit of a struggle against Texas. I do personally expect Bama to bounce back throughout the season and still be one of those elite teams by the end of the year, but they have shown some flaws in their game pretty aggressively thus far into the season, 3 weeks in. So it just kind of depends on personal opinions at that point of, is it Georgia and then everybody else? How does that go? What's that going to look like the rest of the way? Obviously, the AP poll, when everybody kind of agreed that Georgia should be ahead of Bama, they did jump them after last week, not this week, but last week, week 2. And so now they are currently leading the pack as the number 1 team in the country. And contrary to what Kirby wants to say is, we will not be hunted around here. Well, you're going to be hunted, like in the sense of you're now the number 1 team in the country. You have a target on your back, but I don't know how much bigger of a target that would be being the number 2 team versus the number 1. Georgia looked extremely good against South Carolina this weekend, showing that they could throw the ball extremely well still. Stetson making plays with his legs and doing all of that has started to make a huge argument for himself in the Heisman contention area as well. So I'm going to kick it to Jonathan real quick. What do you feel, after watching this game this week, do you feel like it's other teams are right there with Georgia, or is there kind of a gap right there?
I think there's definitely a gap. Georgia has proven, even though it's just 3 weeks, Georgia has proven to be the most consistent team. And it's not just consistent on offense or just consistent on defense. It's been on both sides of the ball. The defense has played stout. They played amazing in the first 3 games. And that's with people saying, oh, they're probably going to take a step back. And I think majority of everybody, even Georgia fans, expected their defense to take a step back. And they haven't done so. They allow 3.5 points now or something along the lines of that in 3 games. They pitched a shutout the week before, and they go into a hostile environment in Williams-Brice Stadium, their first SEC game of the season, and just absolutely smack them. I mean, smack them on the floor from the get-go, just open it up, beating the drum out of them. And you didn't see that with Alabama when they had their first true test of the year, I guess you could say. They went out there and struggled against Texas, who – their starting quarterback in Quinn Ewers ends up going down in the first half, and they go with their backup. And it was a dogfight, man. And then Texas really didn't help their case this week. They struggled a little bit in their game as well. And Ohio State now, with their win against Notre Dame, doesn't really mean much because Notre Dame lost to Marshall. So Georgia's separating themselves right now. And even Paul Feinbaum said that Georgia is the new Alabama because they don't have any holes on their team as opposed to everybody else. They look the perfect team is what he said. So, yeah, I would say there is a gap in college football right now, and it's Georgia at the top, and you got a gap between those 2 and 3 teams.
Yeah, Dan, I mean, going off of Jeremiah's point or Jonathan's point, I want your thoughts. I mean, what do you make of the Paul Feinbaum, Georgia is the new Alabama?
Well, I think that's what we all wanted, was it not? I mean, when we hired Kirby, that's what we wanted. We wanted that standard. We wanted that excellence. And I think Paul Feinbaum made a tremendous point where Georgia is playing to that standard. They have developed that standard, and now they are playing to that standard. And anything less than that standard is completely unacceptable. And I tweeted out, or I texted you guys, I don't know if I'm ready to live in this new world. I don't know how to handle it, where we are expected to dominate every single team that we play. I don't know what it's like to have backups early in the third quarter in a conference game against a team that said they had a chance to beat us, and their fans saying that they're better. Now, as far as the Alabama and Georgia and everybody else, I think that's just, for clicks, because Alabama's still a damn good football team. I understand that they have some issues on their offensive line they got to clean up. And I understand that some of the transfers haven't immediately been an impact type of player that they expected them to be. But Georgia won't play Alabama until the end of the year. Now, Alabama does have a bunch of tough games along the way. I expect them to get through it unscathed. But I think by the time Georgia sees Alabama, they're going to be the team that we expected them to be. Maybe not as dominant, but dominant nonetheless. But You're right. There was a lot of different other games, and I wanted to cover two real quick. It's Georgia Tech against Ole Miss. Why do you want to cover that game? Because Georgia Tech hired Jeff Collins because they wanted to get into this new millennia with a new offense. The guy has been Captain Waffle House, and he is like Dan Quinn, Captain Logos and Mottos and all this other stuff, and lifting weights on the sidelines and acting a fool. Well, so my next door neighbor, JD Davis, he works for ESPN, and he did the game yesterday. And we talked over the fence last night about the game, and he pointed out Georgia Tech couldn't threaten. They couldn't develop any offense. The total yardage in that game was 547 to 214. Well, 214, that's not – yeah, that's bad, especially when you're giving up 547.
Dog water.
14-0 in the first quarter. So it's already starting to get away from you. It's 21-0 in the half. Well, good job. You only gave up 7 points. Then you give up 21 unanswered in the fourth quarter to a 42-0 loss. Ole Miss called off the Dogs. Could have been significantly worse. And then the second game, Auburn Penn State, 7-3 in the first quarter. Then it's 7. Give up another 7, get another 3, so it's 14-6 at halftime. Okay, you're in a game. Well, then you get outscored 27-6 in the second half en route to a 41-12 loss. 477 yards to 415 yards. Oh, okay, that's close. Auburn turned the ball over 4 times. We heard this talk in those first 2 games that they played that Auburn's back there on. You turn the ball over 4 times. You don't take care of the football, and then you couple that with the boosters did everything in the world to screw this up by just completely attacking Harsin in the offseason. Now he's still here. He's got a job to do, but you have basically cut the guy's legs off. He has nothing to stand on. So these 2 teams are in a bad way. I thought Auburn had a great chance to hire the guy at Florida now.
Billy Napier?
Billy Napier. I thought that would have been a home run hire. They decided to go a different route. They don't like him. But now I guess they're both in the Deion Sanders sweepstakes. But why would Deion leave the situation he's in to coach either one of these trash teams? So I don't know. I mean, they're not trash. The kids aren't trash. It's just the leadership isn't great. Jeremiah,
Power 5 programs. Power 5 programs. That's why he would leave going. He's at a small school, and trying to build that. He needed a job as a first-time head coach, even though he hadn't worked in college football like that before. He wasn't able to get into one of those Power 5 jobs or one of those bigger schools because he hadn't been a head coach before. So why he would want to leave his current situation and program is because he could potentially now show, hey, by the way, I've made myself my name as a college head coach at this point, so I can show you that I can run a program. And so that's why now that this next wave of college jobs popping up at places like Auburn or Georgia Tech, which I don't know that Georgia Tech's, got a head coach by the end of this week at this point. Like I've rumbles are everywhere on that. And everybody's already making that same speculation of maybe Deion. And then you're talking about Auburn. Auburn looked really bad this week. So yeah, that's a potential job. My question would then be, why would you not leave where you're currently at to go to one of those schools that Georgia Tech, hasn't been a big program, but think about like the level of a program that Auburn could be potentially, especially if they have a head coach that can actually run it and do very well with it. That's why he would go somewhere else.
Just a quick note, because we've been following these NFL games all day long. Arizona Cardinals, with no time left in the clock, get a 2-point conversion, 23-23, headed to overtime with the Raiders. My goodness.
We got a lot to cover. Jonathan, you are muted real quick, but we got a lot to cover in the NFL and also in college. And real quick, going off of the Deion Sanders sweepstakes, it is actually kind of interesting to me to see, whether he would choose Auburn or Georgia Tech, or if they're both going to go after him. To me, I wouldn't take Georgia Tech, and there's a number of reasons why. There's a number of reasons, mainly they haven't done anything since they fired Paul Johnson and left that triple option. Auburn's interesting. I know there's the dream out there, the pipe dream for them that they want Urban Meyer. But you go get Deion Sanders, get a little firepower, get a little name value to you. I think they're going to do a lot better in recruiting. But then again, kind of as we've already talked about, they really cut the legs out of Brian Harsin and really made it an untenable situation. I mean, you didn't give the guy a chance. He got 1 season, took Alabama to the brink, and then you said, oh, no, I don't want you anymore. Bye-bye.
Look, guys, I sat here at the beginning of the season, and I was looking at Georgia Tech's schedule. And I legitimately, after looking at all 12 games, I said, there's maybe 1 win on this schedule for Georgia Tech. They already have 1 win on the year. But we're going into year 4 of the Jeff Collins experiment as head coach at Georgia Tech. And we're sitting here saying that there's a legitimate chance Georgia Tech wins maybe 1 or 2 games. That's a big problem. A coach that now the good thing is at least Jeff Collins has transitioned you away from the triple option, which is really probably what his ultimate goal was to do at Georgia Tech. It may not have even been to build them back up to this successful program, but the issue now is you're not a very enticing program for other coaches to come to because, I mean, it's still a huge rebuild. You're not competitive against many people. Like, congrats. You were competitive against Clemson for a half, and then they ended up rolling in the second half. And since then, you ain't looked much better. So I think Georgia Tech is in a really bad situation in a transitioning period when they do want to cut ties with Collins, and whoever has to take that over, good luck, man, because you have your work cut out for you. The good news, though, is you're in the state of Georgia, and there's plenty of talent in the state of Georgia. So, but man, with Dan giving us the update, that's pretty much wrapping up, or like that pretty much summarizes what the NFL slate has looked like today. Just game after game after game that has just been absolutely fun to watch. They've been coming down to the wire. Even the Falcons made a comeback against the Rams late in their game to make it interesting. Had a chance to actually pull off the upset, coming back from 28-3, just couldn't get it done. But I mean, goodness, there's been tons of NFL games. But so we're going to touch on one more college team, and it's going to be Texas A&M and Miami. This has been a hot topic, especially after Texas A&M got upset by App State. Huge setback for that program, especially coming off the recruiting cycle that you went through, and you get the number one class, and things look like they're on the up and coming with Jimbo. But then you come into this season, and things still look to be a little shaky. There doesn't seem to be much foundation around this program. In fact, after 2 games, you're benching your starting quarterback in Haynes King to bring in Max Johnson. And so I don't know if that decision was made because just purely off of King's performance against App State, because it's absolutely horrendous, or if it was just they felt like based on what they saw with their team and on tape that maybe Max Johnson now fits that mold better than Haynes King did at the beginning of the season. But I think with what you get at Max Johnson, and you saw it in the Texas A&M game, he's not going to be a guy that goes out there and wins you games with his arm. He's not going to blow you away with these amazing throws. I think his pocket presence is a little weak. He struggles in that area, and I think he looks pretty frantic. And when crap hits the fan and things aren't organized up front. But what he will do for you is he will get you in the right spots pre-snap, and they will get you in the right position regards to where you need to be, alignment, things before pre-snap. He's good above the shoulders pre-snap, but then after that, things just go all kinds of wrong. And so the offense still looked pretty bland for Texas A&M, but at least you got the win over Miami, and you were able to build off of that. Because I think if you lose to Miami there's no telling to what this season could down spiral to for the Aggies.
No, I mean, it could definitely get, pretty bad for the Aggies this year. We had them ranked pretty high. You and I did, Jonathan, when we've talked about them in the preseason, thinking they might go about 11-1. Obviously, at this point, they've already lost to App State, so they're going to have a worse record than that. That's guaranteed. And that also shows they have a lot of flaws. Also, it is concerning that, you start the season, there was a quarterback competition where Max Johnson could potentially be the starter at the beginning of the year. They decided to go with Haynes. And then at that point, you go straight to the next guy within 2 weeks. Two games in, and all of a sudden you're going into your biggest game of the season so far, playing Miami, at home, yes, but you're playing Miami, who is a top 15 team at the time. And you go, hey, I'm going to switch quarterbacks before this game because, like you said, I guess they saw enough out of Haynes against App State. They were like, it can't be worse than that. And we need to make sure we have a better performance than that to go up against Miami. And I mean, it wasn't a great game against Miami this weekend for him, and he didn't look incredible. But, actually this week, you, me, and Harrison were talking at one point in time of, watching some of the film from when he played against LSU, played against Bama last year, and watching some of those plays. And Max Johnson really looked like he was just a young, inexperienced quarterback. So my thing to y'all was, hey, let's give him a little bit of time. Let's see what he can do this season in a brand new system. And, another year, a little bit older, a little bit more experienced as a quarterback. And he did win you a game against a big opponent last week. So that's huge. He didn't have an incredible performance, but he still played well enough to win you that game. So now you got to try to build off of that momentum through the rest of the season and see where he can take you. That's, you don't know what you're going to get entirely. It's kind of a season that they might have to salvage as Texas A&M goes, but it's definitely potential there for him. We'll see how it goes.
I gave you an analogy with the Max Johnson change to quarterback of when you're trying to dock a boat with really choppy waters in a really busy marina, you want the guy that will get you into port without smashing everybody's boats up. And I think that's why the change was necessary, because you had extremely choppy waters with a loss to Appalachian State. So you had to get somebody that could get you through this next game without smashing into every single boat in the marina. And I think that's what Max Johnson did. While we were watching the game last night, we kept commenting back and forth that they were being very conservative. But in my mind, the whole premise of it was they didn't want to just have an absolute disaster of a wreck on national television for everybody to see. And I think that's why that precipitated that change. And I think Max Johnson accomplished that. Now, going forward, do I think he's the guy who can go out and win you games? Maybe. That's to be seen. But I do know that he can get your boat in the dock, and that's exactly what he did last night.
Yeah, kind of adding into what you already said. I mean, the kid is talented. The kid has what he needs to win. I don't know if they have the talent around him. And really, right now, it's just looking like Haynes King is a scapegoat at this moment. The offense is not entertaining. The offense, I mean, you watch it. Jimbo Fisher hasn't been the same for years now. It just right now, Haynes King is a scapegoat. I think once you get to the offseason, A&M's going to make some changes, maybe some overhauls in scheme, kind of similar to what Kirby Smart and Georgia did after the 2019 season. But with that being said, it is time to transition into the reason probably most of the audience, all of the audience this year, talks to some NFL. So with that, Jonathan, let's open this up.
Holy cow. First off, I want to talk about some Lamar Jackson. That dude put on an MVP performance today. The dude was putting up numbers that I used to put up with my Road to Glory character in NCAA 14. Let me read off these stats for you. The dude had 318 passing yards, 119 rushing, and 4 total touchdowns. Dude was playing out of his mind, and it looked like the Ravens were going to run away with this game. It was a blowout in the first half, but then Tua Tagovailoa comes knocking on the door and says, not so fast. Finally gets his weapons rolling in Jalen Waddle and Tyreek Hill. The reason that they brought Tyreek Hill over here to elevate this offense. And people were kind of starting to shut off on Tua, saying like, maybe he isn't the guy. Maybe Miami needs to start reconsidering themselves at quarterback. But by God, he proved himself today. He also put up unreal numbers, and he put the team on his freaking back and brought them all the way to a win, a come-behind win against the Ravens. So just a freaking absolute wonderful game to watch between two quarterbacks. For them to put up those type of numbers, playing against each other, just going after it, down to the wire, absolute beautiful game to watch. But Lamar Jackson definitely put an exclamation point by his name and put his name in the MVP discussion.
Yeah,
absolutely.
It'll be interesting to see. Sorry, that's all me.
No, you're good. You're good. I mean, just real quick before I kick it over to Stoddard. I mean, what's interesting about it is, coming into the season, Lamar Jackson's playing on a contract year, guys. He is playing for a contract, and I think ultimately this is going to backfire on Baltimore because you're going to end up paying a lot more money than you thought because you didn't think Lamar Jackson would come out and play. I mean, two straight games. I mean, he threw for 212 yards last week, had 3 touchdowns, I believe, in their season-opening win. Well, now he's come back and he's had another great game. Yes, you didn't win, but like Jonathan says, you have an MVP, quarterback back there in Lamar Jackson.
Yeah, you do have an MVP type quarterback with Lamar Jackson. It'll be interesting to see what he can put through in a full season. He's dealt with a bunch of things. He never has had like a season with insane stat line throughout the whole year because I feel like he's had injuries or different things that have kind of plagued him throughout it. But he's had these performances, right, that you've seen where he just balls out when the moment's big, when he needs to do something, and he's been able to do it. And this game was one of those where he absolutely balled out. And yeah, his team came up short. But, when you score 42 or 38 points and your defense gives up 42 points, you need a legitimate MVP type quarterback to win that game, I guess, at the end of the day. But it is what it is. You lose, you move on to the next one, but you keep playing like that, and you've definitely stapled yourself as an MVP candidate for the rest of the season. That's a guarantee.
Everybody wants to talk about Lamar Jackson, and he did have a great game, but we have to go back to what Tua did. 469 yards passing, 6 touchdowns. He did throw 2 interceptions, but everybody also wants to talk about Tyreek Hill. Well, we forgot about Jalen Waddle, the guy who came out of college at Alabama. He's one of the most impressive route runners, explosive guys that we've seen. Tyreek Hill goes for 190 and 2 touchdowns. That's what they paid the man for. That's why they went out and got him. But Jalen Waddle, 171 and 2 touchdowns on 19 targets. I mean, Tua, we saw all the videos, all the guys making fun of him, the incomplete passes, the underthrows and stuff like that during spring and in the summer practices and stuff like that. With a game on the line against a great competitor like Lamar Jackson, he rose to the occasion as opposed to shrinking from the occasion. And I got to put my hand up and say I thought Tua was the wrong guy. I thought that they were going to go get another quarterback. Tua impressed the pants off of me today. The performance that he put on for everybody to see was just miraculous. And I know that Lamar is going to continue to get the headlines because he's a story. But Tua played one heck of a ball game, and he needs all the praise in the world for what he was able to do. And I wouldn't be surprised if Lamar Jackson ends up in Atlanta next year, just saying, with all that money coming off the books, and we know what sells in Atlanta.
They have a ton of capital next year.
Oh,
Yeah.
Highlight Factory, Atlanta shows up when you put a product on the field. You put Lamar Jackson, even if you don't put anything around him, people will show up to watch him run. They did it with Michael Vick. I think Lamar Jackson would be a great fit here in Atlanta.
Lamar Jackson with Kyle Pitts and a young Drake London and maybe whoever else they add in the draft this next year, that could be pretty enticing. That could be for a really fun offense to watch if that happens.
They have a ton of money. They have a ton of money to do something like that next year. A lot of that money falls off the books, and they have a ton to spend. So they could. You never know.
This
Make
right
the
here.
Falcons fun again. Like Brooks says right in the comments, real quick though, guys, real quick, not to take the thing away, but we do have some attention to give Zachary Moss with our first super chat of the show. Guys, if you want to send us a super chat, send us a super chat, and you will get read out. Thank you, Zach, for it. And real quick, Swami prediction. Spencer Strider leads the MLB in strikeouts next year. If you've been watching us since the beginning when we started this podcast, you know Zachary Moss is the co-GM of the Atlanta Braves, called out the day before, actually, when Jesse Chavez got brought back, said they were going to bring Jesse Chavez back. Fast forward 24 hours later, came true.
Now,
well, hey, he's not
Spencer's,
too far. Yeah, he's not too far off. Spencer Strider breaks Randy Johnson's record of 200 Ks in 130 innings, 200 strikeouts in 130 innings. That is the most ever.
He easily could lead the league in strikeouts next year. The dude he's out here getting like 10 strikeouts a game, it feels like, every time he's out there.
The first third of the season, he was in the bullpen, guys.
Yeah. And he was still getting 5 strikeouts, 6 strikeouts a game.
Now he's arguably your best starter.
Well, I mean, you got Max Fried, but
hey, but with that
there's
being
one
said,
more thing.
Let's transition back in. Jay,
All right,
go ahead.
I'm gonna give one more thing on this Lamar Jackson topic. I think the most impressive thing about what Lamar Jackson is doing out in Baltimore is he doesn't have these household names surrounding him that he can throw the ball to. Like, he doesn't have a Tyreek Hill that he's chunking the ball to like Tua does, or even a Jalen Waddle. He does have Bateman, who is a young guy, and he looked really good during his college days, and I think he will be a pretty solid, or is already being a pretty solid wide receiver in the NFL. And then he's got Devin Duvernay. I think that's his first name, but you got Duvernay, who's like, okay, pretty solid piece as well. And then, okay, you got Mark Andrews out at tight end. But, man, it's not like this offense is just littered with all these game breakers and game busters like some of these other offenses are that allow these guys to put up insane numbers. He's rocking with some casual guys, but, man, he's still putting up the big numbers, and he's still getting the job done. I know he took the loss, but it wasn't on him by any means.
Well, we're going to transition now into the story of the day was all of these close games. And if you were paying attention to our Twitter today, I put out a tweet that says, you liking these close games? 19% of the NFL games since 2003 are 3 points or less. 25% in the same time frame are 7 points or less. Every single game we had today, gentlemen, every single game was 10 points or less except for one, the Indianapolis-Jacksonville game, which, by God, did not see that coming. And listen to this. 30% of teams are scoring in the 2-minute drill to either tie or take the lead in the NFL since 2003. That's incredible. The NFL wanted to build a product where every single game was close and exciting. And if we are going to get 17, 18, 19, whatever weeks of this in the NFL, I mean, this stuff writes itself, guys. This show is going to be phenomenal because we get to cover all these games. And we still got one going this in overtime. And Brooks, you can hop in here if something crazy happens because I can't watch it right now. But
4 minutes left in overtime, still a tie game, by the way.
Every single game this week was 10 points or less except for one. That's incredible. And we still got 3 games to go, boys.
Yeah. It's going to be a fun one to watch. You know, going to even the Falcons. The Falcons almost came back today. The Falcons, this is kind of funny. The Falcons were down. The Falcons were down 28-3 today. That number sticks in everybody's head. I know. They were down 28-3 today and had a chance to take the lead with a touchdown, and they threw an interception. They threw an interception in the end zone with like 30 seconds left or whatever it was to end the game, and it was over with. And so, yeah, you didn't close it out, but you actually had a chance to come back in that game. How'd they get there? You know, you got an interception in the second half that kind of helped you go that way. You blocked a punt, and then you forced a fumble and recovered and were able to take it down and do something after that and put yourself in a 6-point game to end it at the end there. And it's just as a Falcons fan, now we've been here 2 weeks in a row where it's like, all right, this game should be good. We have a chance to win this. We could do it. And then you just get kind of stabbed in the chest again where you just didn't get to actually finish and follow through with it and win it. But it was a very close game. Like Dan said, it was one that was actually going to be a blowout, it looked like, for a long time. But then all of a sudden, they march back, and you still get excitement out of the game. It was fantastic to watch, just out of the terms of when you remove the emotion of being a Falcons fan away from it. It was fun to watch because it made it interesting.
I will say the good news is for Atlanta fans, even if you are losing every single game right now, at least you're in the mix of the games. At least your young guys are looking good. Drake London is looking the part of what you wanted out of a receiver that you take in the first round. You got Kyle Pitts from what he had last year. He's already looking solid. Now you're just kind of waiting and feeling around for those other defensive guys. But the defenses even look solid in some moments. You got AJ Terrell over there on the corner, who's one of the best in the league. And now you're just kind of building around him. Maybe some of those young defensive linemen that you took and some linebackers, they start to flourish as well. And then it's all kind of what happens with Desmond Ridder. How does he play out? Does he start to get playing time later in the year? If this continues where you're losing every game and at one point you're maybe 0-7, maybe you do transition into Desmond Ridder, and then things get really exciting for Atlanta. I know, again, I said you might be 0-6, but at least you're watching these young guys. And if you're staying in the game, if you're being competitive, that's all you can really ask for in a rebuilding year. Because at least at the end of the year, you're probably going to get a top pick and have your pick 'em of maybe one of these other quarterbacks in this class, like a CJ Stroud, or maybe anybody else that's one of those top prospects as well. So just being competitive right now is a win for the Falcons. Winning games would be nice, but at the same time, we knew what this year was probably going to look like. So the fact that they're in a game with the reigning Super Bowl champions and the Rams, that says enough, and that should tell you enough about this Atlanta Falcons team may not be so far down the barrel as people think.
So I want that number one pick, and I want that number one pick so that we are picking at the top of every single round in the NFL draft. But if somebody asked me what I really wanted out of this Falcons season, what did I want the record to be? I wanted to be on 16, but I want every single game to come down to the wire because then you're building. Now. Yeah, 0-17. 1-16. How about that? So
there you go.
We're not the first team in NFL history.
Hold on. Sorry. There are 17 games in the NFL, just like the goddamn Raiders are in Oakland and the Chargers are in Las or wherever the hell they were, San Diego, for the rest of the time. I will not call that a 17-game schedule. I will not call them the Las Vegas Raiders. I will not call them the LA Chargers. Gentlemen, you're doing a great job. Continue, but great point. To hell with this. 17 is so freaking weird. Sorry.
It's different.
Yeah, wait till you have a 20-game college football season, Brooks, with a 12-team playoff.
Yeah. So to continue my point, what I was trying to say is that I want every single game to be very, very close, and I want them to lose so we can get those top picks. But I think if you are in every single game, that way your fans are going to get excited. They understand what the deal is. They understand the process. I do want to see our coach, Arthur Smith, get a little bit of time because I think with the right personnel he can. Imagine picking at the top of the draft and you have an opportunity to say maybe get Jalen Carter and put him next to Grady Jarrett so you don't waste the final couple of years of Grady Jarrett's career. And then at the top of the second round, maybe you're able to get somebody in the secondary. I don't know, maybe like well, no, that's not going to happen. But, somebody good for the secondary to pair up with Terrell. And then some of these young guys I'm impressed with, like Michael, number 3, the linebacker. I think that guy is playing pretty good football. I think some of these young guys in the secondary are starting to come into their own. Do I think we have the talent to win at a high level? No, absolutely not. But I want to see them be competitive every single game. I want to see them continue to lose so we can get that top pick. Because with all that money coming off, imagine if you are able to go get Lamar Jackson, not have to give up any capital for him because he's a free agent. That's extremely important to notice. No capital, and then add all those pieces in. You add a Lamar Jackson, and then you add somebody like Jalen Carter and a bunch of pieces on this defense. Boys, we are ready to play.
So to wrap it up for everybody who's listening, this segment where we went in on the Falcons here. What they want to see here, what we want to see here, or Falcons fans together is basically, if you're going to lose, let's lose in style, is what I got from this. What Ole Miss fans say when they play Bama, if we're going to lose, let's look good doing it. So that's what I'm taking away from this. The Falcons are going to lose. Let's play close. Let's look good while doing it. And with that being said, guys, I have a case to bring to you. I have maybe a hot take. Maybe it's not. We'll see who agrees with me. I don't think anyone's going to agree with me, but that's why I brought it onto the show, is because it's going to spark some discourse. It's going to spark some conversation. And here's the case I'm going to make. I think the AFC East is making a strong case for being one of the best divisions in the National Football League. I know everyone's going to look and say, hey, what about the AFC West? How are they better than the Chiefs, Chargers, Raiders, and Broncos? I hear you. Believe me, I hear you. But listen to me for a minute. Let's look at this division from the top to the bottom. First off, probably the projected winner they're going to win the division for the second time in a row unless anything crazy happens, the Buffalo Bills. The Buffalo Bills are straight killers. When Bruce talks about 1% arm talent, when you look at 1% arm talent, 1% arm strength, there's nobody better than Josh Allen in the league today. I don't see it. I mean, what he did against the Rams, pieced up a really, really good Rams defense. Altogether, the Bills as a whole, they won the line of scrimmage on both sides of the ball. That's scary. That's scary, man. You add in Von Miller, it opens up so much for the rest of that defensive line. They're going to be scary. Moving on, the Dolphins. There's nobody in that division that improved more than the Miami Dolphins. I mean, it's crazy to say it, but the first time since 2005, they came back in the fourth quarter but down 21 points. That's crazy. That they lose that game by a blowout. But it's because they added a dynamic weapon like we talked about earlier in Tyreek Hill. They believe in their quarterback, Tua Tagovailoa, who Georgia fans are well aware of, has some talent. Now he has some pieces around him, and they're hitting on all cylinders. They dominated New England on both sides of the line of scrimmage in week 1, and it was 21-7, but that was a pretty convincing win, you ask me, from the Dolphins. Then we go straight into New England, guys. Yes, they may be the only team in this division that maybe didn't strengthen. I don't know off the top of my head what the Jets did, but the Jets got Joe Flacco now, who's coming back and winning them games last second. New England has problems of their own, guys. They got to figure out on offense. Everyone had questions about what they had going on at OC, but Mac Jones and that New England offense looked pretty good today. They bounced back in a big way against Pittsburgh. Yes, they were without TJ Watt, but hey, overall as a whole, if the Jets are winning football games and you got the Bills, the Dolphins, the Patriots contending for a spot in the playoffs, who's to say they can't be the best division in football?
Yeah, potentially. Now, if the Dolphins are able to continue to play like they did today, and Tua is able to continue to put up numbers along with Tyreek Hill and Jalen Waddle, and then if Joe Flacco is able to continue to put up 4 touchdowns and around 300 yards for the rest of the year, maybe the Jets can still hang around in that relevancy. So maybe they can still hang around. I think you still got to see how the Broncos shape up. They didn't look too great against the first week against the Seahawks, Geno Smith-led Seahawks team. So I think you still got to kind of figure those things out. But, man, if we're going from an entertainment standpoint, it doesn't get any better than what the AFC West offers you. Heck, the Thursday night football game between the Chargers and the Chiefs, holy cow, that was an amazing game. Justin Herbert's out there playing with hurt ribs, playing hurt, tough as nails, still out there throwing dimes, putting his team in a position to win. And you have Patrick Mahomes and Justin Herbert just slinging it around the football field, going after it, score after score in a tight one. So I think the AFC West definitely provides a lot more entertainment, especially when you add in Russell Wilson and Derek Carr, which I think Derek Carr still remains underrated. I think he's a really good quarterback. You have those type of guys as opposed to what you get in the AFC East when you get down to like Joe Flacco at the bottom of the list and a Mac Jones. I honestly, that's a snooze fest if I got Mac Jones on my TV on a Sunday afternoon watching the Patriots, if you ask me. So maybe they do start to compete against one another, but from entertainment, I'm taking the AFC West every single time.
I think the AFC East is on equal footing right now. I think if you say who's the worst team in each one, Denver would be my guess in the West, and then on the East would be the Patriots. And I think those teams are pretty equal. I thought people expected more out of Denver because they brought in Russell Wilson, but I don't really think he has all the weapons necessary to compete with those top 3 teams. So I think it's going to be – those 2 teams are going to be at kind of the bottom. I think it's a pretty even conference. And you talked about that Chiefs and the Chargers game, and fractured rib cartilage. I didn't exactly know what that was. So yesterday at the field, I asked our paramedic, I said, hey, what exactly is that? He said that you have the cartilage that holds all your ribs in place. Basically what that is your ribs have separated from that cartilage and you have to pop them back into place. So my guy, his ribs were popping out from his muscle and he had to pop them back in place to play. And he just elevated to a whole nother level of badassness with me because it's hard enough to throw touchdowns in NFL. Did you see the dime that he threw on 4th and 10? The guy couldn't even breathe, and he throws an absolute dime.
He throws them open.
Yes! Incredible.
With fractured rib cartilage.
The play
that's
before
on the level. He scrambled out of the pocket.
That's got to be on the level of Herschel Walker in the 1980 National Championship, dislocating his shoulder and coming back in and still mauling over those fools.
Charging through them, yeah.
Pittsburgh. That's on that level. The man just goes on the sideline. Yeah, pop that baby back into place. We running, baby. We rocking.
Ladies and gentlemen, if you were sitting here watching today going, you know what, this is supposed to be a Georgia-related channel. That's a fan right there wrapping everything back to the damn Dogs. Herschel Walker, 1981, popping shoulders back in. Did you say Buddy was pushing his rib cartilage back in and out?
Absolutely, he was. You could see it on TV. He was pushing it back in so he could make a throw.
I'm good on that one. I'm good on that one.
Hard pass.
Oh. Something tells me ibuprofen isn't fixing that issue.
No, it's not.
No, and I'll jump back into the conversation of the AFC West or AFC East rather on that. I'm kind of with Jonathan on the sense of that's not exactly a fun division to watch thus far. We haven't seen. I guess we'll see how it plays out and it changes over the day. One of the main games I was watching today actually was the Steelers versus Patriots, and early on in that game, Mac Jones really did not impress me. He was we've talked a lot on here about your quarterback talks to your receivers by like where they place the ball, right? Well, if he was talking to his receivers about where he was placing the ball, he hates his receivers, and he was trying to get them killed because he was putting them like he would throw it at their back hip and make them stop running, and then all of a sudden they do get blown up because they couldn't keep running for it, or it kept them from getting a first down because he didn't lead the receiver and throw it in front of him so he could keep running, even though there was no safety or anything coming downhill to hit him in that spot if he keeps going in stride. He kept doing a bunch of stuff like that. He would throw the ball pretty high to him a few times early on in that game as well. But he did settle down and become a little bit more accurate with it and give his guys a little bit better of a chance as the game progressed. And maybe it was that he was just a little cold and he needed to get warmed up and get better into it. But no, he definitely wasn't. He wasn't leading his receivers where the ball should be or talking to his receivers by ball placement early on in that game. And so it wasn't fun to watch him early on. But then he did progress a little bit further. Once again, the AFC West, though, the quarterback battles that we're going to get to watch for the next decade, you got Mahomes, Herbert, and these guys out here, they're going to be going head to head for a decade. Like, that's going to be a rivalry that we are going to tune in to get to see twice a season. That's going to be so much fun to watch. I don't know about y'all, but I just get chills thinking about how good those games are going to be. Thinking about this game we just talked about, where Herbert's over here dealing with his ribs moving around and not in place correctly, and he's sitting here pushing them back in and still throwing dimes. That's the kind of it's going to be so much fun to watch these young guys progress through their career in that division.
Yeah, I mean, there's just no. I know the Seahawks beat the Broncos in Week 1. I know it happened. I know Geno Smith threw it back to 2013 when he was at West Virginia. I mean, it was absolutely crazy to watch that game. But, I mean, you got to believe that the Broncos are going to kick it into stride. The AFC West is going to be an absolute battle. So is the AFC East. And that's the case I was bringing. I think the Bills are going to win that division. Unless something crazy happens, unless an injury or something like that, or – heck, the Dolphins put together and nobody can stop that offense. The Bills are going to win that division. And if the Patriots can figure out what's going on with their offense, their defense is good enough to win games. I think that's the big thing. I know Sauter was saying Mac Jones didn't impress him in the first half. I think that's just another young quarterback. He's going to get better. It's just he needs a number one receiver. We've talked about it before. Got to get him some help like the Dolphins did with Tua this past offseason. But with that being said, we know you got that 8:20 Sunday night football game to get to, and we got Monday night football games to get to. So with that being said, it is time to make our picks, guy. 2 of them. Yeah, that's an elite slate right there. It's going to be, I don't know if NFL Red Zone is going to be on, but if it is, that's going to be the moves. With that being said, let's open it up. Sunday night game, 8:20 on NBC. You have the Bears at the Packers. The Packers are the 10-point favorites for this game. The over-under is at 41.5. With that being said, I'm going to I'll put the Stodfather, Jeremiah Stoddard, on the spot. Who do you got in this game and why?
I'm going to go with the Packers. They are heavily favored. They're at home. It's hard to play up there in Wisconsin. I do think they're going to be able to pull it out. I need Aaron Rodgers to have a much better game this week than he had last week. I have him in fantasy. He almost killed me last week. I need a decent performance to wrap up my win for this week from him as well. And I think he's going to go out there and he's going to have a pretty good game. The Bears do have a good defense, but that place gets pretty loud. I think it'll help the Green Bay Packers by the end of it.
Man, I don't know if you guys watched the Packers game last week against the Vikings, but by the end of it, Aaron Rodgers had some freaking demons in his eyes. He looked like he wanted to take out anybody and everybody in that stadium because he was so unpleased with how his performance went that day. And that is not a good sign for your next opponent. In this case, it's the Chicago Bears and Justin Fields. I'm taking the Packers in this one. When Aaron Rodgers has something to prove, when he's playing with a vengeance, when he's playing with a chip on his shoulder, it's not going to go well. I don't care who the heck he's throwing to. He made Jordy Nelson look like a freaking all-time wide receiver through his years at Green Bay. So I'm taking Green Bay in this one over the Bears for sure.
Well, of course, Green Bay is going to win this football game. He owns the Bears. Aaron Rodgers told everybody on the world with his discount dollar that he owns the Bears. You don't go into Lambeau Field and beat them. So I got the Packers 100%.
I'm in agreement here. I'm not gonna split up from the group. I got the Packers here, just like Dan said. He owns the Bears, so I'll be interested to see how Justin Fields looks. He looked kind of improved in Week 1, especially playing in the rain. I got the Packers covering this one. It's gonna be a good game to watch. And with that, moving on to Monday nights, we got 2 games, as Jonathan said. Let's start with the Titans at the Bills at 7:15. Started with Jeremiah last time. I went Dan last. We went with Dan last. Dan, you're gonna open it up. Titans at Bills. Who do you got?
I think Josh Allen is just an elite quarterback. I think the Titans are a fun team. I don't know if this is a 10-point game or not. It's over-under 47.5. I have a feeling this game could be over. But then again, the Bills' defense is pretty good. I think the Bills are going to win this game. I don't know if they cover, but I definitely got the Bills winning this football game. Josh Allen, like I said, elite.
Stoddard, what about you? Or no, sorry. Jonathan, what about you? We'll go to Stoddard last.
Man, it's hard to pick against Josh Allen, especially now that he's paired up with Stephon Diggs and Devin Singletary in the backfield. That offense is so much fun to watch. They're so explosive, and they just score with ease. It almost seems like every single time they have the ball. Special things happen when the ball is in 17's hands. So it's hard for me to pick against the Bills in this instance, especially when the other quarterback on the flip side is Ryan Tannehill. You got Derrick Henry, but you really ain't got all that much more on that other sideline. So I'm rocking with the Bills on this one, and I think they do cover the spread on this one.
Yeah,
Stoddard,
I'm going to going along the same thing that Jonathan just said. You know, we just spent 10 minutes talking about the quarterbacks in the NFL and how good those guys are. One of those being Josh Allen and how exciting he is to watch all the time. One of those guys is not Ryan Tannehill, and he's doesn't have much to help him out, like you just said, outside of Derrick Henry. And you can't be that one-dimensional against a team like the Buffalo Bills. You're going to have to be able to throw the ball pretty well also to offset that. And I don't think that they're going to be able to do that. Josh Allen is one of those guys that, he did, had a 2-interception game last week, still threw for about 300 yards and ran for 50 on top of that as well. He's going to bounce back. He's not going to have another multi-interception game back-to-back. And if he's not throwing interceptions, it's going to be a long day for Tennessee.
Yeah, I'm with all you here. I'm taking the Bills here at minus 10.5. But I think I'm going to hit the over in this game too. I think over 47.5. I think that's going to be a pretty safe pick. I don't really know too much about the Titans defense, but I know Josh Allen, that Bills offense can light the scoreboard. Hey, maybe we even get a James Cook touchdown Monday night. And for the last game, 8:30 p.m., Vikings at Eagles. This is an interesting matchup. And with that being said, Jonathan, you're first up on the clock.
This is the one I'm excited for. Jalen Hurts looked really, really good last week in that new Eagles offense where they added A.J. Brown at wide receiver. They got Devontae Smith, and they got some other dudes on that offense. They looked really good, but the Vikings looked really good as well. Justin Jefferson, holy cow, he went off against the Packers. He is a freaking dude out there, and he's almost all you need. But then you also throw in Dalvin Cook as well at running back. This one's going to be fun, in my opinion. I think this one is going to be close, and honestly, I think I'm going to lean the Vikings' way. I think they have I'm still not sure what the Eagles are on defense. I don't know how they're going to match up, but I like Justin Jefferson and Kirk Cousins. I like that connection. I also like how they're not one-dimensional on offense. So I'm going to be rolling with the Vikings this one. And I don't know if they cover that spread. It is just 2.5 points. So you know what? Yeah, I'll say the Vikings win and they cover the spread.
See, I was thinking about going with the Vikings on there as well. Kirk Cousins is that same guy that he's got that experience in the league. So going on the road for him isn't something that's super, taunting or daunting for him. It's not a terrible task for him to be able to overcome. You still have Dalvin Cook to kind of help you out as well. But I think it's one of those games that, you get a good game at home and you get the Eagles with Jalen Hurts. Like you just said, he's been looking really good. He threw for 243 yards last week. Didn't have a touchdown or interception rather on there as well. And Miles Sanders is also having a really good season so far to start with. He had 96 yards and a rushing touchdown last week. So I think they're going to be pretty balanced. And I think that they're going to be able to cover that game, that 3-point or 2.5 point spread and win at home.
Yeah, the doctor's out here saying trust the doctor, but the doctor doesn't even know the Eagles are a 2.5-point favorite. So he's picking the upset, and I'm with him. I'm going to pick the upset. I got the Vikings, and I got them winning outright. I think the Vikings have a lot to offer. I love that Dalvin Cook's there, and Jefferson has just been incredible. The Eagles are a good football team, but I'm not 100% sure what they are yet, and we could be wrong. We might find out tomorrow that the Eagles are 100% for real. But right now, I got the Vikings winning outright.
With that being said, if you watch the Classic City Sports podcast, you know the saying around here. Trust the doctor, fade the father. Jeremiah's what, 2-1 at this point?
Know.
No. I was 2-0 this week, so don't give me that. Okay, I was 2-0 this week. I had good picks. At least I didn't pick Nevada. I'm just saying.
Oh,
Whoa!
You're still overall behind.
Talk that shit, baby. Talk that shit, baby.
I'm just saying.
You're still behind.
I'm going with the Vikings here.
So pipe it down now. Pipe it down. You still got some ground to catch up. All right, 1 week doesn't prove anything. I need to see consistency from you, Stoddard. I've already proven the consistency. You haven't proven anything yet. 1 week doesn't define you.
I got y'all this week. I just said my picks right here. They're gonna be right. Don't worry about it.
All right,
we got you. I'm trusting the doctor here. Fading the father. I got the Vikings at -2 or +2.5 as the underdog. And with that being said,
can't wait
make sure
next week.
to follow
I get to
everybody.
say I'm smarter than all of y'all for this.
Make sure to follow everybody, especially at the Stodfather, to go see him, how he reacts with his feelings. His feelings are hurt right now. Go follow him the Stodfather. Follow at Dan3 and at Dr._Jwell. I'm at Harrison Reno. Guys, that's going to wrap it up today for episode number 1 of the 4 Wide podcast here on the Film Guy Network.
Hey, great show. I know you're about to end it. Great show. And I'm going to solo right quick if I could. First of all, look at these handles. Such great handles. I wish I had such a clean handle. At Harris Sereno, great handle. The Stodfather, great freaking handle. Awesome handle. Dan Kiley 3, way better than Brooks Austin BA. And the doctor. I mean, Dr._Jwell. It's a B+. It would be an A+, maybe an A- without the underscore. But here's the deal. Look, we're expanding this network. I can only talk so much. I said it the other day on our show on What to Expect Thursday. I mean, I just talk so much, so often. We do so much content. You're already getting 5 hours of me a week if you're over on Patreon. Guys, there's more and more for y'all to watch. Everyone's watching 9 hours of Netflix every day. Mix in about 40, just block out 40 minutes for the Film Guy Network every single day because we're going to have content for you every single day. Especially now on Sunday afternoons, thanks to these guys here on the 4 Wide podcast. I'm going to toss it out for them again. Thanks for those guys. They did a great job. We will be back here tomorrow on Monday. I don't think the Backstreet Street Boys are going to be here because Cole Wilcox is literally on the mound as we speak right now. I think he actually has been pulled. He didn't throw a complete game. What a scrub, right? Anyways, the Backstreet Street Boys won't be here Monday live. I will be debuting a film study tomorrow evening here on the network. So we will see you then. Appreciate you.